Welcome to Storie di Vita by Francesco. I'm your host, Francesco Volponi, and Storie di Vita, meaning life stories in Italian, is the storytelling of my travels and events of my life's journey. I was born in a house on the hills of Cavi, a small village in the Liguria region of northern Italy. Our house was in Via Romana, the old Roman way, which would take travelers from Rome all the way to the French border, about 200 kilometers to the west. Cavi sits by the Mediterranean Sea, and those waters had an important role in my life. I'm sure that when I was born, I must have smelled the sea salt rising up the hill carried by the sea breeze. It must have been so because I absolutely fell in love with the sea. The sea is life. It lets you in. It embraces you. It wraps around you. You become one with it. And this is where my story begins, on the hills by the sea. So get comfortable, sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy my stories. Storie di Vita, Life Stories by Francesco. Chapter 2, The Point of No Return. The first episode ended with my school skipping adventures coming to an end, my mother putting her foot down to the forging of her signature, and the unacceptable routine of occasionally skipping school. Of course, she did all this with her natural loving way. She was never harsh on us, never yelled, never lost her temper, although we gave her plenty of opportunity for that, all five of us. My lack of interest in academic pursuits was a definite sign of new things to come. Living in Cavi was fine and fun during the summer months. The beach, the sea, lots of friends from Milano coming to spend the summer here. All that made it very entertaining and easy for a fast-growing teenager. But once summer ended, life went back to the same old same. Cavi became a narcoleptic environment for me. I felt like nothing ever happened. My local friends did not have, in my opinion, the same vision on life as me. They were more leaning towards life set in the traditional ways. I longed for more, for travel, for adventure. I wanted to see the world. In Cavi, I felt trapped, bored, and almost depressed. Something was bound to happen, and of course it did. So one morning I got on the same daily bus to school with a new intention in mind. I was not going to school, and I asked around the bus for some helping money. I needed to catch a train, and I said, asking around, who wants to pitch in? Any amount will do. Money for a train ticket and for some food. I asked around. And it's amazing how supportive kids are when one of them is embarking on something he or she shouldn't do. But hey, maybe that is the reason why we do support it. Crazy breakaway, a cool escape. We want to reward the courage one has to seek change. We do not, as young ones, think or act responsibly, as adults, of course, do. Hence, the openness to something possibly irresponsible. So I got all the money I needed pretty quickly, and once we got off the bus, as usual, again, I walked in the direction of the train station. Only this time I was not going on a lazy jaunt with Roberto, but I was heading for Milano. In Milano, I would walk into my sister Lali's office and break the news. Lali was the only one I felt safe to go see. I knew that she would not freak out. She would listen and help me out. So I arrived at Milano Central Station and took the subway to Piazza San Babila in the center of town. I knew where her office was. I got in the elevator and punched the floor where her office was. Out of the elevator, I walked directly to the office door and rang the bell. Of course, my heart was pounding. I was excited and yet anxious, apprehensive about her reaction. The door opened and there was Lali, speechless, of course, at my sight. Ciao, I said, smiling. The sound of my voice brought her back to earth, and she gained her ability to speak again. What the heck are you doing here? She said in one single breath. Although I am sure she was short of breath at my sight, I did not answer, and I walked right in. She closed the door, turned to me, waiting for an answer. I said, well, let's sit down and I will tell you everything. Her office was basically a 3-bedroom apartment converted to an office setting. There was 1 bath, 1 room where there was a showroom of the products that the company was selling. 4 tables displayed different style of shoes. The next room was the office of the boss, Mr. Tarquini, a fashion designer from Rome, who had been designing clothes for some of Rome's most famous tailor, and now has embarked on a shoe design venture of his own. And his friend, Mr. Bogarelli, was his backer, a millionaire oil man. So we sat in Lali's office, right across from Mr. Tarquini's office. We sat down, and after a bit, she said, okay, what's going on? I don't want to go to school in Calgary anymore, I said. I did not go to school this morning, but I came here instead. I then proceed to narrate the whole morning adventure from the bus to the train station. She listened, asking at times some questions, just to make sure she was getting a clear picture of it all. I could tell that while she was listening and asking questions, she was also thinking how to handle this thing that I dropped in front of her. Although she was concerned about this new reality and shared that with me, I could perceive a sense of curiosity and fascination, like she was surprised and amused to discover this new side of her little brother, I guess. While she was listening, I could sense that she was searching for a solution. She was thinking how to present this to my parents, what to say, gauging their possible reaction. I had no real plan for the future. I was totally in the present, and the present was no more school. After that, I was open to options. I was not in a frame of mind of programming my future. I had reached a level of saturation with my present schooling situation. Lali brought me back to reality by saying, this is absolutely crazy. Are you sure of this? Yes, I replied. I am not happy in Cavi anymore, and I don't want to live there anymore. All my friends are in Milano. I wish to spend more time with them. Nothing happens in Cavi. It's dull and boring. Clearly, that was my reality as a growing teenager. Cavi was fun in the summer, but then everything died down. And with my friends there that I related to, we struggled in finding stimulating things to do. She said, okay, I will call our parents. I will explain everything, what you have done, where you are, and most importantly, that you're okay and safe. However, you will go back to Cavi and you will face Papa and tell him what you told me. When I got back to Cavi, there was some drama, of course, mostly for the fact that I did not share my feelings and thoughts with my parents. In their eyes, it must have been harsh to deal with my impromptu escape to Milano. Certainly, they did not expect that from me. I met with them and explained my reasoning for the unexpected escape. I told them how I was feeling in Cavi, how I was missing my friends, especially each time that I was allowed to spend a weekend in Milano and to have to come back to Cavi. I told them how I was feeling stifled, stuck, and bored. I wanted to move to Milano. We spent a long time talking about all the things that they felt were not possible and all the things that I felt were possible. Naturally, a typical exchange between parents and a teenager son, back and forth. We were going nowhere. The solution came from a proposal by my brother Claudio, a compromise of sorts. He offered to take me in his household in Pavia, an old medieval town half an hour from Milano, and go to school there. So it was decided. Next school year, I would move in with my brother's family in Pavia and enjoy half a way of what I really wanted. Compromises sometimes are the right medicine. I give a little, you give a little, and we're both happy, hopefully. It seemed that way at first. I spent the first 2 or 3 months in Pavia appreciating the beauty of the old historic place and yet modern as well as lifestyle. I joined a soccer team. I started to take music lessons. I wanted to learn to play the saxophone. I even brought my moped to Pavia. I was cruising around with it a lot, going to school with it, soccer practice and games, and exploring the countryside along the Ticino River. But soon enough, the damp, foggy climate came in, and my excursions came to an halt. I sure was missing coffee mild climate and my beloved sea. Well, one particular weekend, I went to Milano to be with my friends. I had a great time. We hung out and did lots of things. And while chatting away about things, we got into saying how much we missed the good focaccia from Liguria and how the one made in Milano really sucked. It just wasn't worth the name even. So jokingly, my friend Gianfranco and I said, tomorrow, instead of going to school, we should go to Genova and buy some focaccia. We all laughed, of course. But then we kept the idea up, and it became a sort of a challenge. Eventually, Gianfranco and I agreed to go. Gianfranco would take a bus to Pavia. I would wait for him at the bus terminal, and then we would go to the train station and hop on a train to Genova. Once there, we would buy focaccia, hang around a bit, and then head back home. Me in Pavia, him in Milano. Everybody else thought we were crazy and laughed at our plan. That Sunday evening, I took the train back to Pavia and got home excited about the wild adventure for the next day. So the next morning, instead of walking to school, I headed for the bus terminal. Gianfranco was scheduled to arrive at 8 a.m. I got there in plenty of time and waited in the cold and foggy morning. Gianfranco never showed up. So here again is an unexpected event. Once again, life telling us that we should be open to all that comes our way. Another wonderful opportunity to appreciate our inability to control life, only to flow with it. People live within well-defined boundaries due to birth, family upbringing, social influences, cultural environment, school education, life experiences, fears, doubts, and of course, karma. We're bound within these clearly defined borders. Few of us dare to step outside of them. Few dare to break the mold. Most people do not have the courage or even the awareness of the possibility of stepping out of everyday conventional behavior. These boundaries are, for most, a comfort zone, a safety net. Breaking this shell, stepping outside of it, can bring unexpected, unknown change. Change for many is cause of concern. It triggers emotions of fear or worries. As I stood there, cold and hurt, feeling betrayed by my friend, I realized that all this planning and escape was simply chapter 2 of the previous year, chapter 1. The compromise at work for a while, a palliative solution to a deeper need and want. What I truly wanted was to quit school and live in Milano. I wanted to move into the life I wanted, not the one others wanted me to live. So I did not go home. I did not go to Genova. I got on a bus to Milano, and once again, I walked into my sister Lali's office. The moment she saw me, she knew this was it. No more compromises. This was my point of no return. The reactions within the family were multiple. Beside Lali's surprise, Claudio was disappointed. He always had an open dialogue and deep connection with me, and I did not honor that. And then there was my parents. If I meant business, so did my dad. Papa's office, or studio like we called it, was a special place for me. There was a particular smell in that room. The smell of leather from the chairs mixed with the musty scent from the rows of books neatly lined up on custom-made bookshelves. Like all my family furniture, a master craftsman in Tuscany created all these furnitures with gorgeous burlwood inlays. His desk was long and large. It had 3 drawers on each side, full of interesting items. I often used the desk to do my homework. I just loved to open his drawers and explore all of my father's things. Here, my father kept his original fencing foil swords and mask. Papa had been a great athlete. He participated in river rowing competitions. He played soccer for Pisa's soccer team, but his passion, most successful sport, was foil fencing. He qualified for the Paris Olympics in 1930, but he was robbed of his place by another player who was backed by the Neapolitan mafia, the infamous Camorra. He was nonetheless invited to participate as part of the team as a coaching support. He received a diploma for his presence from the famous Olympic president de Coubertin, but disappointments remain still. Politics, organized crime, and the Catholic Church are the trinity of rulers of Italy. A thin line runs through them. Sometimes it is impossible to distinguish where they separate. Papa had been in Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia as a captain doctor during the colonizations of those countries by Mussolini's army. He had brought back many artifacts from there, a large hollow elephant tusk and a smaller Salishani ivory one, and they sat on top of one of the bookshelves. Leather tribal shields hung from the walls, darkened by time and smoke. Smoke was the final scent of the room's bouquet of fragrances. It was not overpowering, and it blended perfectly with the others. It gave the room its distinguished aroma. That, to me, meant the scent of my father. This was the lion's den, and I was in it, ready for the ensuing confrontation. Papa sat in one of the larger leather chairs. He always exuded a strong presence, borderline intimidating, but never threatening. I looked at him with a concentrated mind. He began by going straight to the point. So, what is all this madness? How do you mean? I asked, not sure what to say. You have run away from home, not once, but twice, and the second time from your brother's house, after he took care of your desires for change. None of your brothers or sisters have ever done such a thing. Are we really such terrible parents that you have to run away from us? He came down heavy on me, but gently, and in a way that was clear and free of any possible doubts. I needed to be just as clear and resolute and present good answers to justify my decisions. I did not run away from you and Mamina. I do not think that you're terrible parents. To the contrary, you are wonderful parents, and I love you both very much. I ran away from school, from Kavi, from the things that I do not like and I do not want anymore. What is so wrong about school, and what is so terrible about Kavi that you do not like anymore? I thought you loved your life in Kavi. What I am taught in school does not interest me a bit. I think I have lousy teachers who do not care about us as students. They just come in, they say do this, do that, read this, read that, and then they test us. And we have no clue what we are reading or doing. Most of us anyway. There are always those who suck up to the prof and make it work. My desire is to learn from life, to live life fully, travel, see places. You want to learn from life? Believe me, you will have. No doubt about that, he said. And he said it in a gentle manner, but strong and dry. It went straight to the core of my being. How do you expect to make a living without a proper education? He continued. Do you want to end up like most of the people without an education? Work in the same factory as many people do here? Or in the railroad? You need a degree to get a decent job. You need schooling. He was hitting the right points, and I knew it. I had friends who quit school early and ended up working in the local factory or doing seasonal work as lifeguards. Not many options were available in the area. He didn't say that these jobs were deplorable or that those who did these jobs were less than others. He meant to show me that the choices were few and surely not of my liking. Still, his words triggered some resistance within me. I had discussions with my Kavi friends about breaking the mold, to inspire them to break away from the tradition that being from a working class family meant that you had to become a working class person as well. I tried to inspire them to walk away from obviousness and dive into uncertainty, to dive into the river of life and swim with it, not against it. I wanted to challenge them to be free of anonymity, to be free from the dullness of a small town life. I would ask them, why settle into a soul-killing factory job at a young age? Why not travel, see other places, know other cultures? For most of my life, I have shared my philosophy of living a full life outside of the conventional patterns. I took pleasure in breaking boundaries for myself and acting in manners that would possibly break other people's boundaries as well. See them snap out of the doldrums, realize that yes, there is another way. Not as much with my Kavi's friends, though. My words often fell on deaf ears. Now, at my ripe age of maturity, I realized that we all have our own journey to follow, and that was theirs. In my father's room that night, I was shaping my own. Of course not, I replied, a bit angered. What will you do then? Papa said calmly. I don't know, I hesitated. Maybe I will become a writer. His smile made me realize the naivete and silliness of my answer. I think I blushed, embarrassed by my absurd answer. You need to have an education to be a writer. You will need to go to university for that, to properly learn how to write, the grammar, the structure of your writing. You will need proper training. I could see from his calm attitude and voice that he knew he was hitting the right points to prove my foolishness of my answers. I knew I had to regain focus and direct our talk in the direction I wanted. Back to no more school and no more Kavi. Okay, maybe I won't be a writer. Maybe I'm done with Kavi and with the school. I want to live in Milano. I said this to sound like a final statement. He could use all sorts of challenging questions, although very practical and true, but they won't change my decision. I believe he sensed my resoluteness. He took a deep breath, resigned. Okay, let me think about all this and we'll see. A sense of relief overcame me along with one of apprehensions. The ball was being tossed into my court. If it landed, I had to pick it up and run with it. No looking back. Papa says something exactly to that meaning. Let me say one thing, he said. Remember, this is your decision, not mine. If one day you will feel sorry for the way your life went, do not come back to me to blame me for it. His words were full of love, filled with concern about my life, but they were frightening to me as well. They scared the heck out of me. They almost brought me to tears. There was my papa, whom I loved and revered, and at times terrified me for his strong personality and strength. Sometimes all he had to do was show his determined gaze at us, and we would fall in line without a sound. There he was, looking at me lovingly, blessing me, and yet warning me. You are on your own, son. And so I was. And this ends chapter 2. So I thank you for listening to the second chapter of Storie di Vita, The Point of No Return. Please like this episode, and if you are not a subscriber, please become one by clicking subscribe below. That way you will be assured to know when the next episode will be available. Again, thank you.